So today we're going to talk about empathy in business. Why is it important? And why is it essential to leadership and to teams? And empathy seems to be kind of a buzzword in business right now. And so I think it's really important that we kind of dig in and take a look. So, what makes empathy essential in the workplace? So, having hard skills, your technical skills are really important, but there's other things that are important too. So I'd love for you to pop into the chat your thoughts on this. What makes empathy essential? Is it the growth of teams and organizations? Because robots and computers, they don't have empathy. Improved communication, it's nice to have, but is it essential or other? So I invite you just to pop something in the chat here and see what you think. Why is it important? C for Melanie. C, improved communication. All right. Okay, improved communication. I totally agree with you on this one. Having improved communication is going to be huge in developing relationships and in improving business. So, what is empathy? So, a lot of people will say that empathy is standing in the other person's shoes or trying to understand the other person. And I like to lean towards Dr. Brene Brown. She's a renowned social scientist, and she explains empathy first by explaining compassion. And she says compassion is the daily practice of recognizing and accepting our shared humanity so that we treat ourselves and others with loving kindness and we take action in the face of suffering. She then goes on to say empathy is the most powerful tool of compassion. It's an emotional skill set that allows us to understand what someone else is experiencing and to reflect back to them that understanding. And she would like to get away from that idea that it is standing in someone else's shoes. What she says is, I need to learn how to listen to the story that you tell about what it is like to be in your shoes and to believe you, even when it doesn't match my experience. So it really doesn't matter whether you feel the same way as the person that is sharing with you, if you share their beliefs or not, that really doesn't matter. The bottom line is that we all want to feel seen and heard and recognized. And we place a lot of value on our role in relationship and we want to belong. No one wants to experience FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And empathy is acknowledging and validating the emotions of the other person that you're talking to. Again, you don't have to agree with what's being said, but you want the other person to feel like they've been heard. And the ability to empathize can actually lower the temperature. If things are getting kind of heated, being empathetic is a great tool to kind of lower the temperature in the room. This is an interesting stat that 76% of people who experience empathy from their leaders said that they were more engaged compared to 32% who experienced less empathy. So, what happens when an employee feels like they've been heard? They feel safer, they feel they feel more freedom. And so that allows them to be more productive, more innovative, and bottom line, that's going to be more important for business. It's an interesting stat from Stats Canada that in 2022 that involuntary turnover, so people leaving their jobs, was set at 15.5%. The interesting thing is that was up from 2021 when it was only at 12.4%. So that shows that people are starting to look for other opportunities, and it could be that they're looking for a different situation or they're not happy with the leadership that they have. Now, conversely, for involuntary turnover, so you get laid off or downsized, that went from, it actually went down. In 2021, it was at 5.1% and it went down to 4.6% in 2022. So you've got employees who are looking for more opportunities or maybe a better leadership style, and you've got employers who are hanging on to their people if they can. It's important to lead by example. So as a business leader, if you are not demonstrating empathy in your leadership style, if you're not doing it, other people are going to watch what you do. They're going to listen to you, but they're going to watch what you do. And if you're not displaying empathy or using empathy in as a culture within the organization, people may perceive it to be a weakness and not use it. It's also important for businesses to offer training workshops for employees to develop these skills. When you get hired, it might be for your technical skills, for your sort of your hard skills, but building in training for soft skills is really important, like empathy and perspective taking, active listening, emotional intelligence. Uh, and this shows to the employees that you believe that they can develop these skills. Also rewarding empathetic behavior. So we get rewarded for being on time, finishing our projects, hitting our benchmarks, but it's equally important to be rewarded for showing empathy with your coworkers, with your leaders, with customers. And how could that be recognized? It could be within your 360 review at the end of the year, or it could be in the moment, right? A pat on the back, high five, a way to go, that you really did a good job there, and recognizing it. Because if you recognize that someone is showing empathy, they're more likely to continue to use that. People felt their leaders were more empathetic. 86% reported they could navigate the demands of their work and life. So their work-life balance is better. They're able to juggle the work-life balance. And especially in this time of post-pandemic, when people are feeling kind of overwhelmed, burnt out, more pressures being put on them, the need for empathy is so critical of just being heard. And that can make a real difference for someone, that if they are out of balance and they just want to be heard, and that can make a huge, huge difference for them. So how is empathy an important skill? Well, consider that 70% of our buying experiences are based on how the customer feels they're being treated. It's not about whether the problem was solved or did they get a refund back or how much time was spent. I mean, those are important things, but it's really important how they felt by the end of the interaction. So think of a time when you were dealing with customer service, and let's be honest, nowadays, you phone up customer service and it's press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for this. So you have to deal with the automation piece until maybe sometime you'll get in touch with a person that um, can hear your concern, because the automation is not going to be empathetic. It's not going to be able to listen to your concern. Bottom line is, in the customer's minds, it isn't just financial, it's emotional. How many times have you had a good experience that you have gone and told other people? I had a really good experience at and it does happen, but the chances are is if you have a bad experience, you're probably going to tell a few more people. The number of times I hop on social media to see people complaining about poor customer service, and then everybody else jumps in going, "Oh, thanks for letting me know. I won't deal with them." That's a big deal these days, that customer service is becoming really, really critical, and empathy in customer service. So the bottom line is emotions are more important than facts. And I love the famous saying that says, people may not remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. I'm going to say that one again. People won't always remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So we talked about the importance of having, you have your technical, your hard skills, um, able to use a computer, your accounting, building things, all kinds of technical hard skills. But it's really important to have expertise in the soft skills, categorized in four areas: essential, power, core, and professional skills. And so what those are essential is like communication skills, teamwork, problem solving skills, stress management. Core skills are time management and critical thinking, decision making. Power skills are like leadership. Uh, and professional skills, flexibility, self-motivation, and organizational skills. So having all of these sort of soft skills is really important, because what it allows you to do, it allows you to collaborate, because building relationship with other people is at the cornerstone of good business, whether it's working well with your team members, working well with your leadership, working well with your customer base, working well with your stakeholders. Having that ability to collaborate on based on building strong relationship is going to allow you to have influence. If you don't have relationship, you're probably not going to be able to have influence. It's also going to allow growth for yourself, growth for your coworkers, growth for everyone involved, but also growth for the company. Because bottom line is that when these things happen, when you have this expertise in soft skills, you're able to build relationships. Company's going to make more money. You're going to make more money if you own your own business, and I think that's worth it. And productivity. So more will be produced, more will happen because people are happier, feel heard, and greater communication. LinkedIn did a report 2018 to 2022 and said the largest skills gap are soft skills. And the number one priority for talent development is soft skills. That's really interesting that and 20% of CEOs spend more time learning soft skills than the average learner. Why do you think that is? Well, probably because they realize they'll make more money, right? Bottom line is that people will be happier, the business will run smoother, and so they themselves they're taking it upon themselves to learn about soft skills, and then hopefully offering that training to their people. 89% of surveyed executives said it's difficult to find people with soft skills. So if you ever look through Indeed and you look through job postings, almost all of them have something in there. And, are you able to communicate? Are you able to, play nicely in the sandbox with other people? Because if you're not, that's going to be a barrier to moving the business forward. And if you have these skills, if you develop these skills, particularly empathy and compassion, uh, you'll have that in your toolkit, and you'll actually have a leg up when it comes to looking for new opportunities. 64% cited communication as the most desired skill. Again, they realize that it makes a big difference. Poor communication, if you were here and looking at the intro, talked about how poor communication can cost up to $500,000 a year for a company, I think with over 100K, I think it said. But in the United States, I was looking at a study, and it said that per year, companies can lose up to 450 to $500 billion a year based on poor communication and poor engagement. So let's take a look at what a soft skills inventory is. So first one is communication. So when we're talking about a communication, we're talking about active listening skills, being able to understand what the other person is saying, being able to say what you want to say in a clear and concise way. And it's not just verbal, it's also written, written communication as well. And the last one is nonverbal communication. If you are watching people, I love watching people because it tells you a lot more than what's coming out of their mouth, is watching how they act, watching their eyes. Are they giving you good eye contact? We're going to hop over empathy because that's what we're talking about today. But emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? So it's knowing your own strengths and weaknesses. It's being able to be sensitive to other people. It's being able to let things go, to take responsibility for things that you've done, and also to let it go. It's also allows you to not to get too emotionally involved, but while still understanding the process of what's going on. Initiative taking. So are you the kind of person that sits back and waits to be told what to do? Or do you come up with ideas and put them out there? Not thinking, oh, nobody wants to listen to my ideas, but put them out there, because your ideas, they could, great ideas. Do you take initiative? Adaptability. So this is someone who can accept change as it comes. Sometimes the people who are adaptable will actually embrace change. They'll see it as a possibility as opposed to a barrier. The word that really comes to my mind when I think about adaptability is pivot. Can you pivot? Can you step out of your comfort zone and adapt along the way? And if you're looking for a really good book on adaptability or on pivot, it's called Pivot, and it's by Adam Markle. And I highly recommend that book on adaptability. Do you have a growth mindset, or do you do things the way you've always done them before? And the story I love about this is, it's an old story. So young bride goes to make a ham, and she cuts the ends off the ham to put it in the pot. And her husband says, "Why do you cut the ends off the ham?" And she goes, "Well, I don't know. My mother always did that." And so they get mom on the phone. They go, "Mom, why do why do we cut the ends off the ham before we cook it?" And mom goes, "I don't know. Grandma always used to do that." So grandma's still here, so they get her on the phone and say, "Grandma, why do you cut the ends off the ham before you put it in the pot?" And grandma says, "Well, dear, when I was a young bride, I didn't have a pot that was big enough, so I always had to cut the ends off the ham to fit it in the pot." So I think that's just a great example of, do you do things because that's the way you've been taught to do it, or that's the way you've always done it? Or do you have a growth mindset to look at new ways and new opportunities, new possibilities? Time management. So if you have time management skills, you're able to organize your time. You're able to set your priorities and put time aside for making sure that your priorities are completed. And it's not just for yourself, but for your colleagues as well, that you're mindful of their time. Great Canadian Training has awesome courses on time management. If you have not taken them before, I highly encourage you after this to go take a look at their time management courses. Critical thinking. So again, thinking out of the box. Are you curious? Are you the kind of person that says, is there another way that we could do this? Right? So some critical thinking. And the last one is being creative, right? Just having that freedom to do things a little bit differently. So you want to listen for accuracy, not not assumption. And I love this picture here, because you remember the old tin can, and then telling the person back again what you thought that they heard. A lot of times people listen to fix things, right? They're not listening for what the person's actually saying. They're jumping ahead to, oh, I can fix this. I have an example where my husband's a carpenter, Mr. Fix It, and I finally had to get to the point where I said to him, okay, I'm gonna tell you something, and I want you to just listen. I don't need you to fix it. I just want you to listen. And that has honestly, been a marriage saver of doing that pre-teaching with him of how I want him to listen. So when we're listening, there's 5 different levels. So the first one is you're listening for the gist, right? You're listening for the gist of what the person's saying, and then it's almost like your ear kind of turns off because then you're kind of figuring out in your own head what they're really saying rather than actually paying attention to what they're saying. The next one is that we listen to rebut, right? So we're listening to them and we're looking for what can I come back with? What can I rebut with? How can I be oppositional? Or I have a different story, or I have a different way of looking at it. So we're listening to rebut. Then moving on, we're listening for logic. We're listening to whatever the person is saying. Are they saying it, like, does it make sense what they're saying? And it might be contrary to our information that we have, but is it logical? The next level, we're listening for emotion. So this is sort of taking it the next step, that not only are we listening to what the person says, but we're listening to the emotion that's behind it. We're listening to the passion. We're listening to maybe it's the upset, whatever emotion that is attached to what they're saying, we're listening for that as well. And level 5, the highest level, is you're listening for their point of view. Again, you don't have to agree with them, but you're really listening to fully understand what is their point of view? Where are they coming from? As as Brene says, that you're trying to understand what it's like for them to stand in their shoes and have that experience and be with them on that. So I'd like you to just take a second and rate your listening. I'm not going to ask you to pop it in the chat or anything, but just ask yourself, do you stop listening when you strongly disagree with the speaker on one point? And I'll be honest that there are times when I just tune out, right? And I think that that's maybe I'm the only one, but it could be a natural reaction that we're so adamant about what we believe that we just don't want to listen to other points of view. Do you assume or anticipate regarding the other person's view? So on this one here, there's a thing called already always listening. And what that means is that you've been in relationship with this person. You've heard them talk before. You have an idea of what their beliefs or their point of view is. So when they start to talk, you already go to that already always listening. It's like, oh, here we go again. Rather than listening to them newly, you have that already always listening. So do you assume or anticipate what they're gonna say? Do you feel you can judge most people quite quickly before hearing them out? That's a good one. Do you judge people? Sometimes we can judge people within the first 4 seconds of meeting them. And sometimes just giving them time. And sometimes it can be a slow burn to build a relationship with someone. And do you encourage others to elaborate or clarify points you've misunderstood? One of the most typical thing when someone is talking is to go, yeah, okay, yes, yes. But you're not really understanding what they say. Do you take the time to go, can you tell me more about that? Now, part of the reluctance to do that could be that you don't want to show that you don't understand. You don't want to lose face. But at the end of the day, if you're not understanding what they're saying, then how can you collaborate? How can you agree to be on the same page if you're not even understanding what they're saying? So empathy is understanding what others are experiencing, and to demonstrate empathy, you want to focus 100% on listening and understanding, not the outcome, right? So often we're listening to respond. We're not listening just for the sake of listening. Listening and understanding. We're listening to fix. We're listening to respond. So really just focus on the listening and understanding, not the outcome. And you actually might hear something new. Be present. Put your full attention on the other person, their message, and be authentic. So one of the things I love to teach it is how the importance of eye contact. If you are talking to me and I'm turning away and I'm not even looking at you, are you going to feel like I'm really paying attention to you or that I'm connecting with you? No. And I'm not saying you're going to just stare at the person, but good eye contact with the person. The other thing to be aware of is your body language. You want to have sort of a relaxed body language. If you're talking to me and I'm with my arms closed or arms crossed, um, I'm cutting myself off from that connection with you. So be aware of your body language when you're listening to someone. Good eye contact, relaxed, try and keep your hands by your sides, could be in your pockets, just relaxed. The next one is to use empathy statements to actively listen. So you might say stuff like, wow, that sounds like it was really difficult for you. Or that must have been really hard for you to tell me that. And I really appreciate that you did. Or, wow, that sounds like it must have been really frustrating. So try and reflect back what you perceive the person's emotions may be. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. Remove the judgment and preconceived ideas, right? So really try and listen to people newly. And this is a challenge, especially when you've been in relationship with them for a while, your coworkers, your bosses, your employees, you have that already always listening. So it's a valuable practice to say, I'm going to listen and I'm going to listen newly and see what happens. And then recognize the other person's feelings as legitimate and respect them. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but those are their feelings, their emotions, and to have respect for the way that they're feeling. So people reporting when their leaders were empathetic, 61% of employees said they were able to be innovative. Wow, compared to 13 with less empathetic leaders. So to me, that says greater bottom line if the employees are being able to be, if you're being more innovative, going to come up with new ideas, going to help the business to grow. So there's a direct impact on the business when empathy is in place. So here's a little change scenario. So a new technology is replacing the current model, and people were just getting used to the current one. However, there was a lot of negative feedback. It's not intuitive, it's slow, I can never find stuff. And the leadership comes back with, here's the new system then, and it should resolve these issues. It's really fast, there's no lag time, it's more intuitive, it's full-time IT help, which is great. You're dealing with sort of the the situation, sort of the nuts and bolts of the technology. But what's missing here is the connection around how people feel about change. So whenever there's going to be a change within the organization, it's also really important to check in with people. How are they feeling about it, right? And maybe they're fine, maybe they're not. But if you can go ahead and change the technology, but without checking in, you're going to be missing a big part that will help the change to be more successful. So in empathy, there are three different kinds of empathy. The first one is cognitive empathy. So this is where you can understand where the person is coming from. So let's say they're feeling lonely. Well, in this moment, you're not feeling lonely, but you have felt lonely before. And so you can understand how they might be feeling. Now, you may understand how they might be feeling, but here's a key tip. I would never say, I totally understand how you're feeling, because honestly, you'll never understand how another person is feeling. The key word here is, I can relate to how you're feeling. I've felt lonely before. So the word I like to use is I can relate to it rather than I totally understand. And sometimes when you say you totally understand, the person will get their back up going, how can you understand? You're not me. So there's a key word that I can relate to how you're feeling. In emotional empathy, you are feeling what they're going on to the point where, they're crying and you're crying. Like you want to get to solution, you want to help them, you want to make a difference. But there's that the empathy is quite deep there that your emotions are activated as well. Whereas in the third one, a compassionate empathy, you're able to listen to the person, help them feel heard, and you want to help them to find a resolution or some sort of action, but you don't have that emotional involvement as well. So you're able to help them without being emotional. So I just want to play a little bit of empathy theater here. So um, uh, three different scenarios, and I'm just going to give you some possible reactions. So the first one is, I can't believe you got my name wrong in the email. And I could respond and say, well, no, I'm pretty sure I got it right. Or you might say, oh, wow, thank you so much for telling me. That must be frustrating. I'll make sure to correct it in future emails. I'm so frustrated with your system. It always crashes at the worst time. Could be, well, we're doing the best we can. Or it could be, I can understand that you're frustrated right now and appreciate you hanging in there with us as we work on this issue. And the last one, I've been your customer for 20 years. Is that the best that you can do? And it could be, yep, that's the price. Or it could be, wow, 20 years, that's a long time. We appreciate your business. And unfortunately, at this moment, that is the price. And we hope that you'll continue to do business with us. So can you see that there's a little bit of difference in there in how you could react just by adding in a little bit of empathy? Let's talk about self-talk. So self-talk is our inner monologue and happens, sort of unconscious in the background on its own accord. It's interesting that not everyone has self-talk. I was actually talking with a friend of mine who's a psychologist, and he said, well, you know that not everybody has self-talk. I was like, what? I thought everybody did. He said, no, some people have nothing. Some people see images. He said, most people have self-talk, but there are people who don't. I just found that quite fascinating. So how does self-talk get in the way? On average, our brains can process 400 to 800 words a minute. Whoa, that's a lot. But the average person speaks at about 173 words per minute, which means, how are you feeling in that time, in that 1 minute? That's 227 to 627 filler words. So even as I'm talking to you right now, you probably have things going on in your mind about, oh, what was that last slide? Or what did she say about that? Or, gosh, I got to pick up milk on the way home, right? We have this self-talk that sometimes can get in the way of really listening to what the other person is saying. And what I would say about that is when you catch yourself doing that, try and, just take a moment, stop and try and refocus back into what the person is saying. Because self-talk gets in the way. It can be unconscious, negative, and judgmental. And it could be a storyteller a story we tell ourselves. We are meaning making machines. And that's why when you're at, if there's an accident, there's all these different versions of what actually happened, because all of um, uh, all- our meaning making, our the stories that we tell ourselves are based on four different things. And if you can think of the acronym BOAT, so it's based on our beliefs, our opinions, our attitudes, and our thoughts. So those create somewhat of a filter, and that's where our stories go. It's based on those things, our beliefs, our opinions, our attitudes, and our thoughts. Classic stories that we have that come up again and again are the victim story. Why does this always happen to me? Right? That's a good one, right? Why does it always happen to me? Or the villain, after all I've done for them, this is how they treat me? How dare they? Or helpless. Oh, just never works out for me. It always happens. And you'll notice that there's certain words that can come up again and again when we're using negative self-talk. Can't is one that comes up all the time. Can't happen, can never do things. Never is another one. Never works out. Um, uh, let's see. Can't and never. Always is always happens, or everybody. This happens to everybody. Well, no, it doesn't happen to everybody. It's happening to you right now. But sometimes we want to make sure that everybody's feeling the same way. So it's important to watch our self-talk. So how do we manage that? First of all, you have to stop. Stop, pause, reflect. And my same friend, the therapist, came up with an acronym for STOP. And what it is stop, take a breath, observe, and then proceed. So when we take a moment, and breathing is so important. And when someone is talking to us, and if you feel yourself being kind of activated by what they're saying, stop and breathe. And that will help you to refocus on what they're saying. Challenge yourself. So after you kind of calm down from that emotional response, refocus your thinking and challenge yourself and your assumptions to see, could you look at from a different point of view? Is what they're saying a possibility for you? Challenge yourself. And then you can choose. You might have, behaved the same way if you hadn't stopped to, stop and challenge yourself. But by doing that, you might be open to a new possibility or a new opportunity. Because in getting to yes, both parties need to play a role in it. There has to be respect and consideration. And when there's a lack of understanding, that can contribute to arguments and continued disputes, right? There might be some people that you work with that it's just like, yeah, I just, whenever you're working together, it's like headbutting. And here's the hot tip is when you use empathy, quite often it will be reflected back to you. Maybe not right away, but keep practicing empathy, and eventually, hopefully, that empathy will come back to you and help build a relationship. You want to go soft on the person, hard on the problem. You don't want to use the person as a target, right? They're not the person. See the problem as a target, not the person, and see them more as an ally that you can work with to solve the problem together. It's important to observe the emotions. So your own emotions, the emotions of the other person. And also I want to say, take a look at the way that you were raised and how emotions were viewed. Was it okay to be emotional, growing up? Were you told, don't be so emotional, squash that? So how you learn about emotions will play out until you learn how to manage them. And I love this next slide because it has all these emotions. So we've got 5 different columns. We've got happy and sad and angry and afraid and ashamed, but you'll see underneath them that there's a whole list. It's such a diverse vocabulary when it comes to what these things mean. So if you're happy, you could be elated or thrilled, or you could be further down on the scale. You could be pleased or you could be mellow, but they're still going to fit under happy. Under angry, you could be furious or outraged, or you just might be resistant or irritated. So if you're talking to someone and they are being very emotional, let's say they're really angry. You can see it in their face is turning red. You can almost see the steam coming out of their ears. You can see that they're really irate. So using empathy will quite often help them move down the scale from being furious or outraged. And chances that they'll move down the scale, but the important thing is don't try and get them hopping over to happy. Okay. Read the room, read the body language, read the room. Don't try and paint the silver lining. If you can help diffuse the level of emotions, that's great. But that doesn't mean that you need to get everybody to happy. Think about a time when you were feeling really emotional and someone wanted you to be happy. And there was like, oh, well, the sun's shining out today, right? And you're like, you're really missing the point. And you don't feel heard. You don't feel heard because it's not just the words you're saying, but it's the emotion that you're expressing as well. And you want to be heard in more than just the words. You want somebody to really get you. So be careful to when you're trying to diffuse these. For instance, if someone lost their job, right? They might be terrified. They might be mortified, right? They might be over in the afraid and ashamed side. They might be angry as well, right? Don't try and make it okay for them. Take the time to allow them to diffuse, because listening is truly one of the greatest gifts that you can give someone. And it is the greatest source of healing, is being able to be heard. I love this quote by Dr. Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If I were to summarize in one sentence the single most important principle I've ever learned in the field of interpersonal relations, it would be this: seek first to understand and then to be understood. And many of us want to be understood first. We want our point of view heard, and I encourage you to flip that around. Seek to understand and then to be understood. If we take a look at an iceberg above the water, what is said versus what is not said. So what is said is like the cover of the entire issue. What is not said, there's a lot more under there. So, and sometimes even the person talking isn't aware of all the underneath stuff. So it can be kind of difficult for them to kind of tap into what's not being said. But one of the greatest things that you can say is, what are can you tell me more? Or is there something that you're not telling me that you'd be okay in telling me? Just opening that door to them so that they can be more open. Again, you want to be soft on the person, hard on the problem, right? Don't make the other person your target. You want to be hard on the problem. Work on it together. Be empathetic, communicate, build relationships, and yeah, have good relationships. So that leads us to any questions that may have come up, and I'm going to pass this over to Melanie to facilitate.
Thank you, Kathy. That was so good. I feel like there was a lot in there. I'm glad we're getting the recording because there's a lot that I want to go back and sit with. But while you're putting your questions in, I'm just going to take us over to our website. Here we go, greatcanadiantraining.ca. Just wanted to show you quickly, put your questions in the chat while I'm doing this, absolutely. But we do have a number of courses that tie into what we were talking about today. Kathy had talked about time management, which is something I'm always working on. So we've got a few really awesome time management courses. This one specifically, great time management with Microsoft Outlook. So it's combining those soft skills with Microsoft Outlook, so you can use your tools to work on that quality. We also have a number of communication skills courses. One that dives even deeper. Where is it? Yeah, emotional intelligence, the path to professional success, communication strategy skills, conflict be gone. Oof, conflict at work, that's a big thing. So a number of courses there about helping us communicate. So that's, again, if you go to the website, click on courses, it all lists down there for you. We also have a number of free resources. You know all about our webinars because you're here. This is the last webinar on this series, but we're going to be having more later on in the year, so keep an eye on that. But I also wanted to show you our free downloads. We have a number of amazing free downloads with different things like accessibility, different soft skills, facilitation, giving feedback, and shortcuts. I'm a big shortcut person with Microsoft programs. So if you are too, those are a lot of really, really handy downloads that you can have on your computer, you can print and put up. And so if we have any questions, I know there was one earlier that that Natalie had put in. Oh, and Avery dropped it for you there.
Yeah, thank you. So Natalie, it's a great question. The difference between empathy and sympathy. So sympathy is more like, oh, poor you. Yeah, I hear you, but oh, poor you. Whereas empathy is really coming from a place of listening to understand. So there is a bit of difference between empathy and sympathy. And I think somebody else went on to say, you know, how do we include it in our work without coming across as sympathetic? Well, you know, don't say poor you, say I can relate. I can relate to what you're going through. I've been through something similar. It's also really important when the person is talking, to not already come up with your story of, oh, I had a situation similar to that, and then want to tell your story. Now's not the time. There might be another opportunity to tell your story, but now just spend the time listening to other people. And you'll find that if you spend more time listening rather than talking and telling your story, that it will actually increase your social value in the company. Just saying. Okay. Is there anything else? Some key things that leaders can do to increase employee engagement, right? Because we talked about how employers were keeping their people and people were, you know, leaving their jobs more frequently. Now, I'm going to answer this question, but first of all, what I want to say is times they be a changing, because years ago you got a job and you stayed with that company and there was loyalty. And nowadays people want to move around to get different experiences. So the stats that I gave may be because that the employee is not happy with the situation. It could also mean that they're going to look for a new opportunity. But to answer the question, what leaders can do is that they can demonstrate those soft skills. So learn how to do them. They can demonstrate them. Also, treat it being humane, treating employees as a person, not just a number. Maybe it's flexibility with work schedules, if that's possible. Meeting the employee where they're at, and support for whatever it is that they're going through. Perhaps they're going through a death in the family. right? So how you would treat somebody in your organization that has a death in the family is probably different than when they weren't, right? And they will come out of that, they will hopefully be resilient around the grief, but you want to deal with them a little bit differently. But transparent communication is really key, right? You want to let your people know that they're valued. You want to let them know where the company's going, right? If people are kind of unsure of what's happening, and then maybe they see layoffs happening around them, they're going to start looking for another job. And just really, really listening. Thank you. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Susan. Voice tone is so important when you're offering empathy. Some folks, and that's a really good point, that when you're talking to someone and they're sharing and you're showing empathy, your voice might get even a little bit softer, right? And that is more of an indication of empathy rather than being argumentative or rebutting. So thank you, Susan, for that. Awesome. Were there any that I missed? Okay. How do you use empathy when the customer is being really difficult? Okay. Well, and this is where the voice tone would come into it, right? So if the customer is being really loud and really really kind of aggressive, you want to soften your tone. You want to have good eye contact. You want to give them time to talk so that they feel heard. And you really want to listen. You can ask for clarification. You can acknowledge their emotions. Wow, you seem really frustrated around this, right? Name it for them, right? Because that will help them to feel heard. Believe them, right? This is their experience. Even if it's not your experience at all, if they're telling you something, believe them. That from their point of view, that's their experience. Express some understanding, right? Don't say, I understand, say, I relate to what you're saying. You can offer solutions. And then a key is to follow up. Follow up with them, right? Were your, was this situation resolved for you? Where are you at? Where are you at with it right now? How are you feeling? So those are my answers. Thank you.
Gonna do a last call for questions. And I think that was so informative. Oh, we do have another one.
Ooh, there's a good one. How do you deal with people that are trying to take advantage of your empathy? Good point, because let's face it, there are emotional vampires that are out there. And if you see that that's happening, then you are going to need to set some boundaries for yourself. And you can still be empathetic, but it doesn't mean that you need to spend as much time with them. Or, yeah, that's a tough one, because if somebody's taking advantage of you, sometimes maybe redirecting them might be another opportunity. Say, this is, this has become out of my wheelhouse. Maybe they need to talk to a professional. Maybe. I know that's kind of risky, but you have to protect yourself as well. I'm not asking you to go out and be a doormat. That's not what this is about. This is about people feeling heard, but you need to feel heard too, right? If you're feeling like people are taking advantage of you, you need to feel heard. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, that was a really good question.
Mhm.
All right.
For employees, you can be empathetic, but the job is the job. Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to get the job done, right? Absolutely. Totally get that. And setting boundaries, I think, is important. I love the grin.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. All right, we'll wrap up there. But just keep an eye out for your email. In the next couple of days, I'll be sending an email that will have the recording. It'll have a handout. And again, we really hope you enjoyed this. There'll be a survey too with any feedback you have for us. So we'd love to hear that. And thank you again, Kathy. This was so great.
Thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate being here.
Take care, everyone.